tonight on City News.
As the number of ICU patients hit a new pandemic high, the Ford government debates another tougher lockdown.
Stay tuned. You'll hear an announcement tomorrow.
Why experts are calling for action before the Easter weekend begins.
What we have right now shows that the pandemic's out of control.
COVID-19 cases continue to climb in Peel region as vaccines are slow to roll out, and new data shows essential workers are taking the brunt of the third wave.
Almost everyone that I've seen has been an essential worker or a family member of an essential worker.
As COVID-19 patients flood Toronto's hospitals, a stark statement from the city's top doctor.
The variants are ahead by a mile.
The dire call to action, plus the new group of residents that's about to become eligible for vaccinations.
Good evening. There's currently 13 schools across Toronto within the public and Catholic boards closed due to COVID outbreaks, including right here at Clinton Street Junior Public School in the heart of downtown near Bathurst and College. There's belief that children in hot zones like here could return to virtual learning. Today we spoke with parents, a leading doctor, and Ontario's Minister of Education.
I just don't know what we have to do to get it through their thick heads that they need to keep schools open.
Anger and stress is boiling over for many Ontario families with fears of another pending closure of schools. Brownwen Alsop is a mother of 2 young children with special needs. Virtual learning took its toll on her daughter this winter. Alsop is also an early childhood educator. She believes school-age children are being used as political pawns.
They're very eager to open anything that makes money for the economy for Ontario. But whenever it comes to something like schools, we'll close that first because it's in our control.
While announcing the Ontario COVID-19 Child Benefit, which will give families $400 of additional support per child, Education Minister Stephen Lecce was quick to point out that he believes the province-wide average of COVID cases in schools is relatively low.
99% of students and staff do not have an active case today. 75 to 76% of schools don't have one case at all.
Though when you break it down to regions, you can see the numbers in some of the hot zones tell a different story. According to Public Health Ontario, there's 81 active outbreaks in Toronto schools. In Peel, there's 30 schools dealing with COVID outbreaks. They'll drive down the QEW to Hamilton, and the number drops down to 3 schools. Kids are scheduled to take their March break the week of April 12th. There's concerns that once the break is over, students will be forced to stay home.
Can you tell parents in the city of Toronto today with confidence that after the April break, kids will be going back into the classroom?
Our full commitment is to get children back to class following the April break. We're going to be elevating our infection prevention measures and our testing access for students and staff because we recognize numbers are rising in the community.
The multiple doctors in the province are saying that schools in hot zones need to be closed yet again, stating that children are bringing home the COVID variant to family members, some of whom are ending up in hospitals and in our ICUs.
Schools are a reservoir for COVID. And as the numbers are ramping up, asymptomatic testing of a couple of schools here and there doesn't do anything for the big picture.
Though Alsop, who will be protesting at Queen's Park tomorrow with the parent group she's founded, believes that children's mental health has yet to be factored into the equation.
I think children are being neglected, really. That children are being neglected, their mental health is being neglected, they're not thinking anything about how this is affecting them.
And many parents across Toronto and in other regions this week have already began receiving emails from school principals asking if their child will need a computer should virtual learning begin again. And some proactive teachers are already sending students home with school supplies. Now, as cases continue to increase, there are more and more calls for the province to implement further restrictions. Cynthia Mulligan joins us now with that story. Cyn.
Well, Adrian, Premier Doug Ford says the government will announce tomorrow if it will impose increased restrictions or lockdowns to combat the third wave. ICU cases continue to rise, hitting a new record today.
Stay tuned. You'll hear an announcement tomorrow, but I'm very, very concerned to see the cases go up. I'm very concerned to see the ICU capacity.
According to Critical Care Ontario, there are now 421 COVID patients in ICU. That is the most since the start of the pandemic and well above the 350 threshold that strains services and forces hospitals into cancelling surgeries.
There's light at the end of the tunnel here, folks. We only have, a little ways to go.
But getting there could be painful. The Premier was at the announcement of the expansion of a vaccine plant in North York. It's a joint $500 million government investment, but obviously won't help vaccinate the province out of Wave 3, which is deadlier and more contagious.
What we have right now shows that the pandemic's out of control.
Dr. Nathan Stahl is on the science advisory table and helped write the latest modelling projections that the Premier and his cabinet debated this afternoon before they decide what action to take next. That modelling will be released to the public tomorrow.
We only seem to act in Ontario when we've pushed our healthcare system to the brink and then some.
Is a lockdown inevitable?
I mean, I'm not a decision maker, but I can't possibly see how anyone could look at this that has power and continue to allow Ontarians to die. I would be shocked if they do not announce a lockdown.
According to Dr. Stahl, the government needs to act quickly before the long Easter weekend begins. In December, it announced a lockdown on Boxing Day, and a spike in cases 3 weeks later was blamed on mass shopping and family gatherings that took place during the 4 days before it went into effect. The health minister wouldn't say what measures would be taken or when, only repeating a well-used phrase Ontarians have heard many times.
Everything's on the table. As we've indicated, everything is on the table.
Opposition leaders are calling for an immediate circuit breaker.
We're here because Doug Ford decided to ignore the advice and walk us straight into a third wave.
My sense is that they don't know what to do because they're focused on the wrong thing, and they're focused on the wrong thing means that they're focused on themselves.
It will be interesting to see what moves the government makes tomorrow. Getting people to comply will be challenging. They're just fed up with this pandemic. But there's also been a lot of mixed messaging. The last few decisions, the government has been easing restrictions and said maybe even by April 12th they could get haircuts in hot zones. Well, now they could be changing their mind and doing an about face. Now, let's check in on the very latest numbers today, and we'll start with the positive developments. Nearly 90,000 vaccine doses were administered in Ontario yesterday. That's a new provincial record. And more than 315,000 people have now received both of their doses. To the bad news, though, another 2,333 infections are being confirmed, pushing the 7-day average above 2,300. That weekly average is now higher than when the province-wide stay-at-home order came into effect on Boxing Day. Another 15 deaths have also been confirmed. The bulk of today's new patients, 76% of them, are coming from the Greater Toronto and Hamilton. First on the Peel region, which is adding 433 new cases today. Peel's 7-day average has now risen by 61% in just 2 weeks. Shauna Hunt is tracking the developments in that part of the GTA this evening.
COVID-19 case counts are once again climbing here in Peel region. The medical officer of health now saying that the gray zone lockdown measures currently in place are no longer working. The region's mayors are pointing to a very slow vaccine rollout, as some doctors say the ICUs are now being filled up with essential workers.
Really, sadly, at this point in time, what I'm hearing from my ICU colleagues and people who are epidemiologists is that we've really lost the race when it comes to vaccines versus the variants, and it's really about variants versus ICU capacity.
Peel politicians have been calling on the province for a while now to flood the region with vaccine, as the variants of concern are changing the dynamic of this pandemic. Dr. Amit Arya tells me it appears essential workers are now taking the brunt of the third wave.
Almost everyone that I've seen has been an essential worker or a family member of an essential worker. And these are the people that we've actually called heroes.
Peel region has about 300,000 essential workers, from food processing to manufacturing and logistics. And according to a new report by the Ontario Health Coalition, the growth rate of the variants is 3 times higher in these neighborhoods.
The spread of COVID-19 in workplaces is outpacing the spread of COVID-19 in other settings. Neighborhoods where more essential workers live have a much higher risk of COVID-19. And that's really where the province's policies should have been focused.
As Brampton's test positivity rate has climbed to 14.5%, among the highest in the province, Mayor Patrick Brown says the city's mass vaccination centres are operating at a minimum.
I was concerned last week when the data showed that Brampton was receiving, and Peel Region was receiving less than our per capita share. Our clinics are not being fully used. We have these mass vaccination centres set up. Everything is ready to go, and there is additional capacity, significant additional capacity. And so supply.
Mississauga is also heating up, with Trillium Health Partners once again transferring COVID-19 patients to other hospitals. Mayor Bonnie Crombie, though, says April is looking better on the vaccine front.
Peel is finally receiving the numbers of doses that we need, and throughout the month of April, we expect to receive more than the provincial average. This increased supply is critical, and we continue to be one of the hardest hit regions in the entire country, representing more than 20% of all COVID cases in the province.
Mayor Brown says so far last Friday was the best day for vaccine appointments, with 1 in every 10 doses across the province going into an arm here in Peel Region.
And I'm told that's going to continue to be the case going forward. But if for a second I see that that's not the case, I will immediately speak out against it, because the notion that Peel Region wouldn't be getting our per capita share would be bewildering at best.
Well, some pharmacies here in Peel Region will start administering shots any time now. Mayor Brown says they're simply waiting for the shipments of the AstraZeneca doses. In Mississauga, Shauna Hunt, City News.
Pfizer, if all the data is fine, may be the first one where we'll be able to administer those to children at a younger age.
With promising results from a U.S. study involving 12 to 15-year-olds, when could Health Canada weigh in on Pfizer's vaccine for kids?
Hi, I'm Tracy Moore, host of City Line and proud Sick Kids supporter. At Sick Kids, every child is being asked to grow up faster than they deserve. Because someone gave monthly, my daughter was able to receive incredible care from a team of dedicated doctors. But many children still need help, and your donation can save lives. So sign up to become a Sick Kids monthly donor before March 31st, 2021, and your donations will be matched for an entire year. Join the fight.
There is nothing quite like opening day.
The countdown to Blue Jays baseball is on.
They've got a lot of confidence and they want to get this season going.
See a team ready to contend in the East get it started.
Well, here we go.
The Bluebirds begin their new campaign with a trip to New York as they battle the Bronx Bombers.
It is deep.
Opening day, Blue Jays, Yankees, Thursday.
How about that?
Sportsnet.
Welcome back to City News. Let's take you down near Lakeshore. Check this out. What a great day to be out skateboarding. The sun, it came out. We hit 17 degrees. Well done, guys. Great day to go for that stroll as well. I would suggest you get outside while you can, because we not only have some active weather in the forecast, it is a chilly forecast as well. It's no joke. There really are flurries in the forecast. I had to say it, right? So we're now sitting at 10 degrees in Toronto. As we move through the overnight, though, those temperatures are going to drop as the winds begin to shift. More of a north flow, and that is going to drop us down to -4, but a wind chill of -9. After midnight, we're also going to begin to see those clouds build in. And yes, the potential is there for snow. Let's time it out. It looks like cottage country, probably going to get into some heavier flurries pre-dawn. And between about 9 and 11, that's when the GTA is at risk of some flurries. Not much in the way of accumulation by any means, but they're going to be coupled up with some really gusty winds. So we could see some brief periods of reduced visibility before we clear out. Here's the wind situation. As we move into the day tomorrow, generally those north winds are going to be gusting between, let's say, 50 and 70 kilometers an hour. So at the warmest part of the day, it's only going to be feeling like -5. So I hope you didn't put the winter gear away just yet, because you are going to need it as we head into the first day of April. The good news is, as we move towards the long weekend, those temperatures are rising. We'll talk about that coming up.
We're looking down Finch right now, and as you can see, Finch is a bit of a disaster. It's all because of construction. It's like this long-term construction as they do crosstown work through the stretch, down to a single lane each way. They're ripping up the road. It's like this between Keele and the 400. This is through Jane, it looks like, through here. Oh, sorry, it's through Sentinel at this point. So it's just a real mess. Traffic, it doesn't look too bad because by this point everyone's learned to just avoid it, but it's a very slow route. We have issues on the eastbound 401, ongoing issues east 401 by Salem. The right shoulder blocked off with a stalled vehicle that's causing really heavy delays from east of Whites Road in the Express. Now at Pizza Pizza, try the new superfood pizza crust. It's vegan, gluten-free, and made with antioxidant-rich vegetables like purple sweet potato. Now at Pizza Pizza.
A promising update Wednesday when it comes to kids and the coronavirus vaccine from Pfizer-BioNTech. The company's just announcing positive top-line results of their study in adolescents, ranging in age from 12 to 15. No infections were found among the children who received the vaccine in a recent clinical trial. According to the drug makers, the shot was shown to be safe and demonstrated efficacy and robust antibody responses. The U.S. trial included more than 2,200 children aged 12 to 15 who received 2 doses 3 weeks apart or a placebo. 18 coronavirus cases were identified in the placebo group, compared to 0 among those vaccinated. So far, no detailed data from the trial has been released, and the study has not yet been peer-reviewed. Other companies like Moderna are also testing their vaccines on children. Pfizer plans to submit its results to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for emergency use authorization in the coming weeks, along with other international regulators, with the hope of starting to vaccinate this age group before the start of the next school year. The vaccine is already authorized for use in people starting at age 16. All right, so for families here in Canada, what could you expect? I reached out to Pfizer Canada. They tell me they do plan to file their data with Health Canada. No firm date, though. They tell me we are currently assessing our filing timelines, and the final decision, that'll reside with Health Canada. Now, Health Canada's chief public health officer, she was asked about Pfizer's study during a Facebook Live event about vaccines. Here's some of what she had to say.
We haven't seen the data yet. We'll be getting that in a couple of weeks at Health Canada for review. They've also started a trial in even younger age groups, and that's in age 6 to 12, but that will be some months before we get those results. So that's Pfizer. But with Moderna and with the AstraZeneca vaccine, as well as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, they're also all doing trials in children. So it's likely that Pfizer, if all the data is fine, may be the first one where we'll be able to administer those to children at a younger age.
And she adds a full review by Health Canada, of course, is needed before any decision is made. Melissa Duggan, City News.
5 years after people paid tens of thousands of dollars to secure homes in a proposed retirement community here in Scarborough, nothing has been built.
It's not right, it's not fair, and believe me, we are going to put an end to it.
So what happened to the project, and more importantly, where's the money these people paid up front? The story coming up in our Speaker's Corner series. In this week's Speaker's Corner segment, big questions about a proposed 2-tower retirement community. It was supposed to be built here in this parking lot in Scarborough, but take a look. No signs of construction 5 years later. One couple who are in their 80s paid nearly $70,000 for a home here, and they are not alone. They are wondering what happened to this project and where their money is now. They reached out to us for help. For some seniors in Scarborough, Trinity Ravine Towers appeared to have it all.
It was a community living, which was really what my parents were looking for.
But after nearly 5 years of waiting,
a fence has been put up, which has been up for 5 years.
Yeah, all of these. Okay.
James Azizia's parents, now both in their late 80s, paid $70,000 to secure a condo here back in 2016.
1 year later, in 2017, is when we got the first communication, a letter, saying that the closing had been pushed back a year, which wasn't a big surprise.
But 19. 2019 into 2020.
And then every year it was pushed back another year, and now we're sitting in 2021 and still nothing has been done.
According to the contract the Aziziers signed, the project was supposed to be completed no later than 2019. City News has discovered not only is nothing built, a proper permit for the site still has not been issued.
Original contract. We just want our money back so that we can move on. My parents are at an age now where moving out no longer makes sense. It's not feasible for us.
Trinity Ravine is the brainchild of Global Kingdom Ministries, a church next to the planned site on Markham Road.
It was geared towards people who were age 50 plus. It was a Christian-style community, which is the faith that my parents belong to.
James and his family have tried for years to contact Kern Calladine, a pastor and CEO of the project.
November came and went, no letter. We were calling them constantly and couldn't get a hold of anybody.
So City News tracked down Calladine. He had first agreed to meet us at the site, but hours before declined and instead sent a statement saying in part, the Trinity Ravine Towers Life Lease project is not proceeding as originally envisioned. We are currently evaluating a few proposals and options which we hope will enable us to move forward with a housing alternative. It went on to say people like the Aziziers will have a chance to withdraw their deposits with interest. As for when exactly, we were told more information will come sometime in late April. While happy to finally get some answers, James doesn't want to wait another day, saying this failed project has put his family in a tough spot.
Our family plans have changed as a result, and I now live with my parents to help them take care of the house. And it's been really emotionally taxing on everybody, too, just worrying, the anxiety of the whole situation, because you cannot take advantage of these people who go into these projects honestly, and all you're doing is confusing them and dragging them along. It's not right. It's not fair.
If you have an issue, story, or question you'd like us to look into, we'd love to hear from you. Send us a message by going to the Speaker's Corner section on the City News website. In Scarborough, Pat Taney, City News.
And it's Richard Southern here downtown. You know, this is a time when many retailers are closing their brick and mortar stores, but a big Canadian chain announcing today a huge expansion. We'll let you know who's planning to open more stores. Plus, one of the world's biggest automakers is jumping on the April Fool's Day bandwagon a day early and getting roasted for it. We got the top business stories coming up on City News.
Downtown residents will be able to have their say tonight over what they're looking for in Toronto's next top cop. I have details on a virtual meeting that's taking place tonight coming up.
We say hello now to Richard Southern, who joins us for our daily business chat. And Richard, one retailer is planning a significant expansion across the country.
Okay, who doesn't like to go and hunt around the dollar store? Am I right?
Sometimes, yeah.
You're like, Richard, what are you doing? You got to up your standards a little bit. No, you listen, they got everything these days, right? And, you know, you can find maybe a good price. Of course, things cost more than $1. Anyways, it's been a big hit. Dollarama is right at the forefront of the dollar store trend. And Dollarama today, Erica, says it's going to open 70 more stores this year in Canada, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, which has crimped its sales. Dollarama actually reported earnings today for the past couple of months. They weren't as big as expected because of all the lockdowns. But analysts say this is a company well-positioned because not only do people want to look for a deal, but they also now, consumers increasingly want to do a lot of their shopping under one roof. Mm-hmm. That's certainly possible at Dollarama. The company also offering up more goodies for investors like a dividend hike. The stock was up on Bay Street today, Eric.
Yeah, that's somewhere where I get, wipes and masks and things too. So, all right, Canadian housing prices continue to climb, and that's leading to some serious concern about debt levels.
Bank of Canada, for the second time in as many months, ringing the alarm bells, Erica, about the scorching on housing market. I mean, we talk all the time about how the prices have literally never been higher than they are right now, and they're rising, quickly. Bank of Canada's governor, Tiff Macklem, came out today and said he's seeing what he calls worrying signs that Canadians are taking on way too much debt to try and chase these rising prices. He made a similar warning last month when he said he was concerned about the excess exuberance of the market. However, the Bank of Canada stopping short of putting in place any new regulations to curb the housing market. We've heard some alarms being rung by the big economists at the big banks this week, Erica. One said it's nearly impossible for young buyers. I mean, we got prices rising outside of the city. How do you even get into this market right now? So a lot of people concerned about it.
All right, and finally, it isn't April Fool's Day just yet, but one company decided to get in on the act a little early.
Boy, did this ever backfire. Automaker Volkswagen put out a press release earlier in the week saying it was changing its name to Volkswagen, like the electric Volts, and that was to, it says, stress its commitment to electric vehicles. The stock actually went up 5% on that news, but then the automaker said, no, we were just joking. It was an early April Fool's Day joke. Well, U.S. regulators might not be laughing. Apparently, the company could be in some hot water for that. I mean, public companies like this are not supposed to put out fake press releases at all. And of course, this also comes as Volkswagen is trying to rehab its image after that 2015 incident where it cheated on government emission tests. So not good at all. Erica, you and I are coming back for some very good things at 6:40. Our interesting stories, including a big out-of-this-world flight that's about to take place.
All right, can't wait. Thanks, Richard. We'll see you then.
Thanks.
To the streets now, where fire crews had their hands full extinguishing a blaze that broke out in a very unusual location this morning. A cell phone tower caught fire near Midland and the 401 in Scarborough. First responders initially attacked the flames from below, but eventually used a ladder to get closer to the tower. Hydro also had to be shut off in the area to protect those battling the blaze. There's no word yet on how the fire started and how much damage was done. Some roads in the area will remain closed overnight as repairs are carried out. Police have identified the victims of a house fire that killed 4 people in Oshawa. The fire ravaged a stretch of row homes on Olive Avenue last week, and emergency crews recovered the bodies of 2 adults and 2 children. They've now been identified as 11-year-old Christian Duguay Sterling and his 9-year-old brother, Lucas Duguay Sterling. The 2 men are 66-year-old Terrence Potty and 57-year-old Paul LeBlanc. They were unrelated to the family. The investigation into the actual cause of the fire continues, including possible arson.
I'm Melissa Nakavali outside Toronto Police Headquarters, where tonight downtown residents will be able to have their say on what they're looking for in the next top cop. Now, a number of virtual consultations will be taking place over the next several weeks, where residents will be able to ask questions as well as learn about the selection process. The Toronto Police Services Board has been assigned the big task of doing the hiring. Toronto has been without a permanent police chief since last July when Mark Saunders retired from the force. The lengthy process began with interviewing 30 stakeholders, which included community organizers, city employees, and police. Yesterday, the first of 4 public consultations took place, where the board heard from residents in Etobicoke.
Hi, go ahead. Is that you?
We heard that people are looking for leadership in their next chief. They're looking for somebody who understands the complex needs of Toronto when it comes to community safety, somebody who is ambitious, but can move a large organization so that it can be nimble, so that it can be responsive.
The search for the next chief comes after months of calls for reform when it comes to policing in the wake of fatal shootings and excessive use of force on Black and Indigenous people across North America. The calls for change is something the Police Services Board will keep in mind through the selection process, they say, by being transparent every step of the way and how the next chief will be selected.
Selecting the chief of police is a vital decision for the board. It chooses the leader of the organization that helps set the course and helps to implement the board's priorities. And those priorities need to be informed by the voices of the city.
The consultation tonight for downtown residents will be taking place between 6 and 8 p.m. tonight. Scarborough will have a chance to have their say next. That's next Wednesday, followed by North York the week after that. Now, the board says this will be a lengthy process, but will likely have a selection by the end of 2021.
It was a crazy year, and the crowd noise was the most interesting of all things, so trying to navigate that.
Hernandez with a fly ball that he hits.
The excitement continues to build surrounding the Blue Jays. Coming up on City News, with less than 24 hours until the Jays season opener, we take you to one of the masterminds behind the task of making the Jays feel at home away from the Dome.
Toronto's mayor wants to expand vaccine eligibility from residents 70 and older to those 60 and older. It is the city's latest push to get needles into arms as variants of concern continue to spread and patients fill hospitals and ICUs. The medical officer of health says it is a serious situation and serious action needs to be taken, but it's unclear what restrictions may be coming to the city. Another day of lineups outside Toronto's mass vaccination clinics, this time in Scarborough, where hundreds of elderly residents waited at least an hour for their shot.
Seems a bit disorganized. They could be a little sharper in what they do.
These clinics are expected to get even busier as Toronto's mayor looks at expanding vaccine eligibility to residents 60 and older, but he's waiting for the premier's permission. Other regions like Halton and York are able to make those decisions on their own and have already expanded eligibility to residents 65 and older. But Toronto doesn't have the same flexibility because they're relying on the province's booking portal. Is that the best idea if it's going to delay moving on to the next age group?
I think well for us, but it does mean we have to ask. And I will say this, in fairness to the province, when we have asked, they have said yes. And we hope they can say yes and implement it as quickly as possible.
He's hopeful the change will be made in a matter of hours and not days. In the meantime, 12,000 appointments remain available at city-run clinics between now and Sunday. And the mayor is pleading with those who are eligible to make an appointment now.
Whether we have 27, 270, 2,700 or 27,000 appointments available, we want them all to get filled up, or as many as possible, so that we can get those needles in the arms.
The push to get needles into arms comes as the situation inside Toronto's hospitals becomes more dire. The city says there are now 330 people in hospital, up from 302 on Monday, and 53 are in ICU. When asked what kinds of restrictions she'd like to see moving forward to regain control of infection spread, the medical officer of health was reluctant to answer with specifics.
I would say this. There's no question. We're in a very serious situation here. I think the seriousness of the circumstances requires actions that are commensurate with that.
Doctors on the front lines say the majority of their patients are essential workers.
Employers need to make workplaces safer. A lot of the people we're seeing are workers who don't have a choice in facing the public. Protect workers as much as we can, because that's who's flooding in right now.
And as those patients flood ICUs in Toronto, many of them are being transferred out of the city.
The issue is that we don't have the staff or the resources to take care of all of the sick people that are coming in, and they're coming in large numbers.
City News has obtained new numbers from Orange Air ambulances regarding how many patients they've transferred since the start of the year. That number is 658 to create capacity in ICUs. And of those, 328 patients were from Toronto, 159 were from York Region, and 123 were from Peel Region. And the hospital receiving the bulk of those new patients is Cortellucci Vaughan Hospital that just opened. They've received 200 patients since the start of the year. And if you are eligible for a vaccination, you are encouraged to book an appointment. The number and website should be on your screen. Vaccine eligibility has been expanded in both York and Halton Region. Starting this morning, residents 65 and older could now book an appointment to receive their first dose. Reservations can be made by phone or online, and no walk-ins are being accepted. Most other parts of the GTA are still working on vaccinating those 70 and up.
The sun is shining. It really has turned into a gorgeous evening. We hit 17 degrees today. We're currently sitting around 10, but a big cool down is coming and some snow just in time for April. It's no April Fool's joke. I wish it was, but through the overnight, we are dealing with a wind chill of -9. So if you're heading out for that evening dog walk, you will need the winter jacket. And you know what? Just keep it on. As we move through the day tomorrow, 1 is as warm as it's going to get, feeling like -5. And that's a late daytime high. We are going to be waking up to -2. And yes, we have some scattered flurries. Nothing in the way of accumulation, but The risk is there for some reduced visibility fairly briefly. We are going to see some accumulation up towards Cottage Country. Blue Mountain, for example, could get about a centimeter. Skiers, rejoice. But for those of us in the GTA, just a dusting. And in terms of the timing, it is looking like it's going to coincide with some really gusty winds. So that's why we could see some of those reduced visibilities. Take it easy on the roads if you are out between 9 and 11. That's when we're going to be dealing with some gusts between 50 and 70 kilometers an hour. But that north wind will increase as we move into the afternoon. And that's what's keeping us so far below seasonal. So 1 is as warm as it gets. 8 is where we should be for this time of year. But as we move into your Friday, yes, the long weekend is upon us. We will see sunshine, and those temperatures, they are warming up nicely. Double digits for Saturday and perfect Easter egg hunting conditions for your Sunday. Mid-teens. Looks pretty good.
There's a base hit. That's going to score a run for sure.
We are less than 24 hours away from the opening pitch being thrown out on the Blue Jays season when they play the Yankees on Thursday afternoon. And while the lights will be out at the Rogers Centre in Toronto for at least the first 3 homestands for the team, they have a dedicated crew making sure Dunedin feels like home.
I am currently in the control room of Dunedin, a little smaller than ours in Toronto.
Stephanie Wright is stepping up to the plate for her 11th season with the Jays. For fans, you may not know her name, but she is behind most of the joyful moments away from the field that you've experienced on a game day. She helps plan all of the entertainment fans would experience during a game, from the music, the fun games, to those cool videos of the players you see on the Jumbotron.
We have our PA announcer who sits right there. I actually sit just on the other side of that window over there. And then we have our audio person who sits right here. And just over here is, show you, this is what runs our entire video board. And right beside us is where Buck and Tabby will be sitting for home games.
Last season, Wright had to navigate making Salem Field in Buffalo feel like home for the players.
Hernandez with a fly ball that he hits.
And says that the crowd noise was actually one of the biggest challenges as they had to navigate how happy the fans would have been during certain plays.
The cool thing about last year was we basically just catered to the players. So it was a very intimate setting, but it was also a lot of pressure to make sure that the fans felt like they were also involved. So we ran a ton of pump-up videos, like everything was player related. So all their music, more walk-up music, more like we pushed all the music to the limits and made them feel as best they could, that they could have a better home field advantage.
When the Jays host teams in Dunedin, they will be able to have some fans in the stands. Wright says she's looking forward to making new memories with the players and Jays enthusiasts. She says over the last decade, she's been able to experience some memorable moments with the team that she has on replay.
There's been so many moments I can't even think of. Obviously, the bat flip was incredible. I was in the control room for that. Eddie's walk-off was unbelievable as well.
You can watch the Jays season opener on Sportsnet this Thursday at 1:05 p.m.
What we're used to seeing from Kyle.
Now, the Raptors are in action tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The team announced that Kyle Lowry will not be in the lineup because of a right foot infection. For City News, I'm Lindsay Dunn.
I got issues here on the northbound Don Valley Parkway, north of Winford Drive. The right lane is taken out. We had a medical emergency here. The driver of the vehicle here that's left on the side of the road was transported to hospital in an ambulance, and now they're just waiting for a tow to transport the vehicle safely out of here. So police are on scene, but no other crews. Again, waiting for a tow truck to arrive. It is slow going on the northbound DVP because of this issue. It's backed up all the way from Bloor, and a bit busy on the southbound side as well, because at one point there were a whole bunch of flashing lights, and I was saying a tow truck they're waiting for. It looks like a tow truck is just arriving. Talking with police, they might be stopping. Oh, no, never mind. They're waiting for someone else. So an ongoing situation here. Now, Pizza Pizza. Try the new superfood pizza crust. It's vegan, gluten-free, and made with antioxidant-rich vegetables like purple sweet potato. Now at Pizza Pizza.
De nous faire perdre le contrôle si nous ne bougeons pas.
We will lose control if we don't act now. A dire warning from the French president as he announces a third coronavirus nationwide lockdown. How a surge in cases is changing day-to-day life once again.
Hi, I'm Tracy Moore, host of Cityline and proud Sick Kids supporter. At Sick Kids, every child is being asked to grow up faster than they deserve. Because someone gave monthly, my daughter was able to receive incredible care from a team of dedicated doctors. But many children still need help, and your donation can save lives. So sign up to become a Sick Kids monthly donor before March 31st, 2021, and your donations will be matched for an entire year. Join the fight.
We're putting the focus on France and its surging COVID-19 outbreak. The French president just announcing in a televised address that starting Saturday, his country is entering its third nationwide lockdown. Under pressure to get control of the latest wave slamming Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron delivering a sobering primetime update.
Une épidémie dans l'épidémie.
Explaining that France is now facing an epidemic within an epidemic, as cases of the more contagious B117 variant first detected in the UK are dominating.
De nous faire perdre contrôle si nous ne bougeons pas.
We will lose control, he says, if we do not move now. Macron, who has long resisted imposing tougher national restrictions, announcing a new month-long lockdown Wednesday that extends regional rules already in place since mid-March. Non-essential businesses will close, travel restrictions put in place, a 7 p.m. curfew enforced, and all schools and daycare centers will shut for at least 3 weeks. With a population of more than 65 million, the country just reporting more than 30,000 new daily cases. That marks a 55% increase from 2 weeks ago. Deaths are also up, with more than 1,000 fatalities reported over the last 24 hours. The country now nearing 100,000 total deaths. And on Tuesday, health authorities reported 569 new ICU cases, the highest number since April. And as part of the drive to ramp up vaccinations, this French stadium that hosted soccer and rugby World Cup finals is now being transformed into a vaccine super site for the Paris region. When it opens April 6th, the goal is to inoculate around 10,000 people a week here. Melissa Duggan, City News.
We're in a third resurgence in Canada, with cases increasing.
Canada's top doctor using social media to share her warnings and advice on COVID-19. In a half-hour Facebook session, Dr. Theresa Tam took questions from Canadians. Top the list, ever-changing advice on vaccines.
I think the fundamental challenge with this pandemic is that science and evidence and knowledge is always evolving and is emerging fast. So we have to act fast to adapt and evolve the guidance.
On Monday, Canada's National Advisory Committee on Immunization changing gears on the AstraZeneca vaccine, not recommending it for people under 55 after reports of blood clots in Europe.
But as more and more vaccines are rolled out in real life to tens of millions of people, more data is going to come in.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, government officials have been working to provide Canadians with daily COVID updates while also trying to dispel misinformation. It's a chance to address misinformation that is often found on social media and explain the attack plan directly to Canadians. Questions like, what vaccine is best?
It's really difficult to compare vaccines because they weren't studied in what we call head-to-head trials. So in one trial, at the same time, designed the same way, you compare one vaccine to another.
Officials maintain Canadians should take the first vaccine that is offered. In terms of the vaccine rollout, official clarified why many Indigenous Canadians are able to access vaccines before others.
Indigenous people still have the worst health of any ethnic group in the country, and they carry a disproportionate burden of chronic diseases. They have lower life expectancy. And because of where they live, often in remote and rural locations.
Health officials hitting social media as Canada sees a surge in cases right before the Easter weekend. In Ottawa, Nigel Newlove, City News.
New witnesses and video evidence showing George Floyd's actions minutes before his death were seen by a Minneapolis court today in the murder trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin. Today started with continued testimony of an off-duty firefighter who said she begged officers to let her perform CPR on Floyd.
Your assessment of his medical condition at that time, did you believe he needed immediate medical attention?
Yes, sir. The prosecution also showing this never-before-seen video of Floyd shopping at Cup Foods before cashing out with what the clerk believed was a counterfeit bill. That suspicion resulted in the police getting called. The 19-year-old cashier said Floyd was friendly and talkative and described their conversation to the court.
Asked him if he played baseball. He went on to respond to that, but it kind of took him a little long to get to what he was trying to say, so it would appear that he was high.
Chauvin's defense team has been criticized for effectively putting Floyd on trial. They argue his death was not caused by Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes, as prosecutors say, but by a combination of drug use, heart disease, high blood pressure, and adrenaline.
A riveting campaign to encourage women into STEM careers. Coming up, how nostalgic imagery is telling women a new job is not complicated.
The community coming together to help a local restaurant.
Sometimes I never run out of words, but this one made me run out of words, to be honest with you.
I'm Brenner on Just Ahead here from the restaurant owner who has been overwhelmed by the support from the community.
Closed captioning provided in part by Best Buy. Quickly and safely get your online order with curbside pickup. Visit bestbuy.ca.
Hi, I'm...
This is a campaign to really call out what we think is the silver lining in the pandemic, and that is an opportunity for women. Now is a good time to think about pivoting into new careers, and we're hoping that our campaign will start a new way of thinking about careers.
And not only new careers, but specifically STEM careers, traditionally dominated by men. The Prosperity Project campaign is using inspiration taken from the Rosie the Riveter imagery from World War II that was used to motivate women into the workforce. Similarly, this campaign hopes to remind women that they can enter science and technology fields.
And so we hope that when women look at the images, they'll see themselves harkening back. It's a bit of a nostalgic look, only we want this time to be different. Women coming into the workforce in STEM roles, in skilled trades.
It's about not only getting them there, but keeping them there this time.
That's right. And so younger women, ages 18 to 24, have a real appetite to learn more and to reskill, and they are really interested in looking at STEM, especially racialized women. And so that's really encouraging.
And for women attempting to enter those fields, the campaign speaks to the challenges and inspires.
Do you find the posters sort of motivational, or what's your reaction to them?
Absolutely. I think they're gorgeous, first of all, but I think the Rosie the Riveter, like, symbolism in them, but also looking at women in these different fields that are typically male dominated is so inspiring.
The Prosperity Project also has resources available to women looking to make a career switch, including online virtual webinars.
See the advice that people in career paths already have, just so that they can kind of base their next life choices on the advice that these women who have kind of been through the obstacles and